everyone, welcome to Unleash with Megan, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of overcoming challenges and achieving extraordinary results. I'm your host, Megan Rovnack, and today I'm so glad to be joined by Kimberly Russell, the host of Legalese podcast, which is a place to educate lawyers and the general public about law so they're armed with the knowledge they need when reading current headlines, and also being a resource for young lawyers and law students who are about to go out into the world. She's a trial attorney that does high stakes litigation, has so many stories. She helped with the Flint, Michigan water crisis case and managed the Jackson, Mississippi water crisis case, among many others. So many stories, so much great work. Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us today. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and your story.
Thanks for having me, Megan. I'm excited to be here to talk with you. So my story is that I'm a first generation attorney. My mom was the first in her family to go to college. I'm the first attorney in my family to go to law school. And I knew that I wanted to go to help people. I knew that I wanted to go to help change systems. So right out of law school, I started working at a state level in child welfare, and then I wanted to get some experience in litigation. So I moved to New York City from Mississippi to work on the Flint water crisis, the Jackson water crisis, and some other mass torts that were pretty big in the headlines. They were really historic pieces of litigation. After living in New York for a while, though, I realized that I wasn't a huge fan of that, so I moved to DC. And I moved here when my lease was up in New York, thinking that it would be easier to get a job in DC if I was actually in DC. But the job market has been weird ever since then. And I just felt this calling to kind of start my own business. So I opened my own law firm and I started Legalese. And that started I'll start by saying, I never saw myself as being a business owner. I thought that I would climb the ranks traditionally, and eventually go into public service or, have the specific look for myself. I never saw owning my own businesses as being a part of my journey. But it's been the best thing for me. And I have really, really, really enjoyed doing it. But there's been a huge learning curve in that. So I had to figure out when starting my law firm, what is it that I want to do? What are there? Because there's so many different types of things that you can do when you hang your shingle. You can try to continue what you were doing before. The type of litigation that I was doing before, because it was contingency fee work, requires a large amount of capital because you're fronting all of your costs up front. So that wasn't super feasible for me. So then I was looking at, do I shift to a different type of law? What do I do? How do I change myself to be something that's going to make money and bring money in the door? And then I realized that the best way to move forward was to get really clear about my identity as a professional and as a leader. So that took dialing into what are my talents and what makes me unique as a professional in the field. And then diving into what am I passionate about and where can I get plugged into leadership roles from there. So out of that, I started taking inventory of my background. Before I was in law school, I was a news producer. So I have a mass communications background, and my undergrad is actually communications as well. And then I have a love and background in public policy at, a statewide level. And then I have this background in complex, impactful litigation. So I have been trying to build a boutique that is the intersection of all three of those things, impactful litigation that's going to move progress forward, fractional general counsel that's going to help small businesses, excuse me, that's going to help small businesses scale in a way that's going to protect what they're trying to build. Because as a business owner, I know how important that is. And then using my background in regulation to help with the litigation, and then using comms to help talk to whether it's juries or advertising, marketing, telling your own story, helping the clients tell their story during, testimony, during a deposition. It took a lot to get that clear on the vision, though. That was not a fast process at all. So It's been a big journey, and I wouldn't be here without lots of people investing in me and talking to me and giving their time so freely, including you, Megan. So that's something that is a crucial point in figuring out your identity as a leader and as a professional.
Wow. That those were a lot of big shifts and changes that you made in your life. And I know, like you, right, moving out of traditional jobs and into a position where you're everything's on you, entrepreneur, solopreneur, making these decisions is a big shift. For me, I'll say it was a big shift because it was like you, something I never really thought of. I never thought I would do. It was not ever in my plan. And then all of a sudden I was in this position where it was seemed like the most amazing opportunity, and it was the best path for me, and it was going to be amazing. And like you, it's been hard but amazing, right? Those are not mutually exclusive. In fact, I think that the things that are difficult can be the most rewarding. And I found that throughout my career before becoming an entrepreneur. And I certainly feel that way now. Yeah, it's hard, but boy, the bigger the mountain that you're climbing, the better you feel when you reach the top of it. And you're just like, yes. Of course, then you look over and you see a bigger mountain and you're not actually at the summit, but that's okay because you just keep climbing. So, could you talk a little bit more about that process that you went through when you were deciding? Because I hear that a lot, and all of the pundits out there, and all of the teachers out there, and the coaches, all of them that I have ever engaged with or learned from, say the same thing: is how incredibly important it is to be clear on what you do, who you serve. So, for that process that you went through, what was that like, and what were some of the hardest parts?
It's a lot of refining, and honestly it doesn't stop. So that's another part, right? The more that you are learning about the business that you're building and the people that you're serving, you're wanting to listen to the feedback of who need your services and how are they being receptive to what you're doing for them, and are the people that are hiring you, are those your ideal clients, or are your ideal clients somebody else? And if there's somebody else, then how do you get in front of them, and what does that look like? So it's this constant refinement. It's been a lot of getting plugged into leadership organizations. I'm super involved with the American Bar Association. I've also gotten involved with different Facebook groups and talking to other entrepreneurs. So it's a matter of like constantly workshopping who you are and your identity and your reputation. And then once you start building that reputation and you have a clear idea on like, everybody talks about it like a niche, right? But like once you have an idea of what your brand is, on who you are, what you're trying to do, and what you want to be known for, that to me was a big difference between what is my niche, it's what do I want to be known for. And once I started pivoting to that direction, it was easier to figure out, okay, here's the type of cases that I want to work with, here are the type of people that I want to co-counsel with, here's what I want to be known for, and here's how I'm going to start marketing myself and putting myself out there. Now, when I say marketing myself, I'm not talking about spending a ton of money on Facebook ads. I don't spend any money on advertising right now. In fact, it takes a lot of money to be impactful in any type of digital advertising. But that all starts with your organic reach. So where you are organically, both on social media and in person, that is how you start to get your reputation out there. So by getting to know people in your professional network, by starting to establish your reputation within, for me, it's the American Bar Association and local bar associations. For other professionals, it can be different business associations. But once you start getting plugged into places where people will keep you in mind for opportunities, and they know who your ideal client is, and they know your reputation and your brand, that's when they will start sending people to you. And that's when you'll start seeing, okay, a reflection of what people are seeing you as. And then you can see, okay, is what they're sending me what I want to be known for? And if so, you keep going. And if not, then you pivot and you keep tinkering with it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People cannot work with you if they don't know who you are, right? It's impossible because they can't find you, they can't communicate with you, they can't choose you, And learning enough about you, like you were just talking about through the organic media, social media, and the organic growth that you have, and people just knowing who you are. Once they connect with you, that's so much of how they're going to be like, that's the person I want to work with. They're doing what I need, they're solving the problem I need solved, and they're the kind of person I want to work with. And I think it's also important for people to understand that being really clear about what that is for you, who you are, who you help, what you do, and communicating that regularly and clearly to other people, allowing them to find you. Some people struggle with that, I think, because they're worried about the people that aren't going to match with them. And they're like, oh, but I want to help everybody and I'll work with anybody. And I would talk to this with analysts about identifying your client, knowing who your customer is for the product that you're writing and write for them. It's entirely possible lots of other people will read that product and get value out of it, and that's great. But you're not writing it for everyone. You're writing it for the person that most needs to know that information, to have that knowledge. And to me, because I lived that for 20 years, this feels the same way, right? It's being very clear on who it is you're solving the problem for, who it is you're going to help, and not being afraid to be clear and specific on that. It's okay that there are other people that might be like, oh, well, they can help even if they're not your ideal client, even if it's not your targeted client. That's okay. But don't try to make everyone happy. Don't try to include everyone as a potential client for you or a potential customer. So I'm really happy that you brought that up. So I'm going to switch gears just a little bit, if that's okay.
Sure.
You have worked on some amazing cases. So could you talk a little bit about how that experience helped you in defining sort of who you are, but also just what were those experiences like?
So great questions. So I guess starting with the what were what were those experiences like? I get or how I mean, so I'll just start with I knew that I've always wanted to get into projects that I would enjoy and find interesting. So both of my parents were journalists. My dad was a news director. My mom was a news anchor and an investigative reporter. So I grew up in a household where we were constantly looking for the truth and holding people accountable and all that type of stuff. So that came very naturally to me with the law. Um, and getting into the type of work that I did in New York City, it was a pretty natural fit of wanting to get into the investigation of things, starting to figure out like how do these pieces fit together? How do we tell this story? How does this match up with the law? All of that type of stuff. It was an absolutely incredible experience to get to work with that. And it also helped me define what type of cases that I want to work with going forward. Like I knew that that's the type of sophisticated litigation that I want to work with forever and ever. Amen. Because it is stuff that changes people's lives. That's why I went to law school. That's what I want to do. And every practice of law, nobody hires a lawyer because there's low stakes involved, right? Like you're spending money on an attorney because you're, you need something changed in your life. But this particular brand of litigating is just what I always saw myself wanting to do, was to help people at a systemic level like that, and that's what that's what these opportunities have been. So I've had some pretty cool experiences from it, from anything from like helping with CNN documentaries to I was on an 8-week jury trial in Pittsburgh, which was a really cool, which was a really really cool experience. And so I've gotten to do kind of every piece of it, from writing the initial complaint and working on the investigations to doing depositions to getting to do motion practice, getting to write motions in the back of the courtroom while trials going on and all of that. So it's been a really really cool experience to see. It's also been interesting to see how people litigate in different jurisdictions. So in certain jurisdictions, people can be opposing counsel can be pretty aggressive to one another. In other jurisdictions, they're more congenial. And if you think of like two jurisdictions that I've been in, Mississippi and New York, you can probably guess which is which.
Yeah, I might have an idea.
but you start to learn your own litigation style and like how you want to be known for in operating in these types of situations. And for me, I started learning that, you know, everybody has a job to do, and even if you're on the opposite side of like justice from the other attorneys, that doesn't mean that, you know, they're the scum of the earth. Whether or not you're a defense attorney thinking that a plaintiff's attorney is like a greedy plaintiff's attorney, or a plaintiff's attorney thinking that you're a soulless defense attorney, doesn't matter, right? Everybody at the end of the day has a full life that they're living with a family and goals and dreams for what they want to do. So for me, my style is trying to be as collaborative as possible to get the goal that I want, right? But to do it in a way that's going to be respectful of the court, of opposing counsel, of our experts, of our clients. You know, sometimes that's not possible. You have to go to the mat, you know, like when you need to. But it's been a learning process of when do you extend your firepower and when do you keep your powder dry. So
Oh, I
yeah.
like that. That's good. Yeah, I think that I love that your approach is collaborative, but with your ultimate goal in mind. I feel like sometimes people forget that. People just want to go into the fray as fast as they can.
Yeah,
So
it's kind of, I have this superpower of being from the South and litigating in the Northeast, because people think like, oh, she's so sweet and so kind. And that's like, oh yeah, I am. And then you get to just, you know,
mhm.
when you're ready to go in for the kill, you can't, because
That's right.
everybody's
They don't see it
underestimating
coming.
you.
Exactly. Exactly. I think a lot of people that get underestimated can get offended by that. And like you, I'm like, oh no, that is one more opportunity for you. That is one more thing that you can hold in reserve and use when it's the most useful. So,
Yeah.
what an amazing life and trajectory you've already had, right? Growing up with investigative journalists and a family in journalism. And I love how that created your paradigm and framework for how you see the world and how you approached it, and that it sent you into a service mode. You were like, I want to serve others. And there are so many ways to do that. I think people don't even realize the infinite number of ways that you can serve others. And you chose to do it through law and go into these mass litigation where you could really change someone's life. And people have seen the movie Aaron Brockovich. Some of us have read Civil Action, and I think most of the country is familiar with the Flint, Michigan water crisis. And then the same things, same kinds of things happening in Jackson, Mississippi. And the sad thing is you aren't going to run out of work.
Yeah, that's true. That it is extremely sad, but it also puts me in a place where I'm passionate about holding the system accountable, but I also am somebody that I know that this can be done upstream as well, right? We don't need to wait until the harm is done. So, getting involved with organizations like the American Bar Association, I've also been appointed as the ABA advisor to a uniform law commission on children's data and privacy, and who owns it when it's in technology that's being used in school, right? So I've been appointed to that committee. And for me, working on things like that, where you're going upstream to prevent the harm, is just as important, if not more important, because you're going to protect everybody in the long run, right? If we're making smart laws and we're making smart regulations that allow for innovation and growth in a way that's going to protect consumers, that's the sweet spot. That's where we're able to make sure that we have the products and the amazing growth that we've had in this country, while also being able to make sure that our kids are safe and our water is clean and our food is safe to eat and the makeup that we use isn't going to cause us cancer, and you know, all of those things. So while there is no shortage of work to do, it's not just on the plaintiff side of things of after the harm is caused. There's plenty of work to do to try to protect consumers up the pipeline too. And I'd love to live in a place where I'm helping on both of those ends of holding people accountable and helping companies navigate upstream so that they're not facing as much liability down the road.
Yes, thank you so much for bringing that up. So, some of my key takeaways from this conversation, because I get so much out of these conversations, so thank you so much for your time, is knowing who you want to serve, being of service, right? I think anybody that's in any business, you're going to be successful only if you're solving people's problems and you're being of service, right? That is what the entire commerce element of that is you're solving a problem and you're helping people however that is that you're doing it. That's the exchange in value. And then being clear on what that is and being able to communicate that regularly with others, and just looking for those other opportunities, which is what I just heard you say, is looking for those other opportunities where you can help beyond the obvious thing in front of you, right? There's more that you can do. Where is that and what can you do? What would be some things that you would want the listeners to really make sure that they learn from you and what you've shared today?
I think that what I would want people to take away is that you want to be brutally honest with yourself, and then you want to be ruthless. So once you start thinking about what it is that you want to do, who it is that you want to serve, and when I say serve, I don't just mean from like a service mindset, like I'm talking about clients, so regardless of what your field is, right? So who do you want to work with? Who do you want to serve? Once you figure that out and figure out what you want to be known for, you need to be ruthless in protecting that and advocating that. So that looks like finding opportunities within organizations that are leadership things, but it also looks like being ruthless about who it is that you work with and what you're associated with. Not every opportunity is going to be the best opportunity for you, and you want to make sure that you navigate everything in a way that maintains the best relationships with everybody as possible. But you can't be afraid of defending your vision and defending who you are. And that can be as simple as asking questions to make sure that everything is going to go the right way at the outset so that expectations are the same. Don't let yourself get intimidated into not asking questions that are going to make you comfortable to start work or start taking a leadership position or start volunteering, because those questions are crucial to protecting your time, your value, your compensation, what you're going to be able to do in the future, your reputation, all of that. And so getting comfortable asking those, not in a spiteful way or in a way of trying to get more leverage at the table or anything like that, but just from a place of clarity, learning that you have a right to ask those questions, you have a right to defend what you've built, you have a right to develop a vision and a dream for yourself, and to continue to check if what you're doing is in alignment with that. All of those things are tough to learn, but they are so important to defend ruthlessly. And getting plugged in with other entrepreneurs or people in leadership or people that you trust is a huge way to do that, so that you have sounding boards when you have tough decisions going on.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. I love the be ruthless part because, excuse me, I think people think of ruthless as being a bad thing, but it isn't necessarily a bad thing. It is a
It's
way
not.
to set very clear boundaries and hold yourself accountable just as you should be holding other people accountable. So thank you so much. Thank you for all of this. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the sharing of what you've gone through and the lessons that you've learned and all the big changes that you've made, and you just sort of kept moving through them, and things are going, I'm really glad that things are going so well for you and the exciting things that you have done, and I'm sure you're going to continue to do.
Thanks, Megan. Thanks so much for having me. This was such a fun conversation. Would love to come back.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us today. And as always, I hope you have a magnificent day.